Dave, I'm worried about our case study. I've done a bit of reading, but I'm not sure what's involved in actually writing a case study. I met the lecture where Dr. Baker talked us through it. Okay, well, it's quite straightforward. I've got our focus, that's tourism at the Horton Castle site, and you said you'd done some reading about it. Yes, I found some articles and made notes of the main points. Do you remember to keep a record of where you got the information from? Sure. I've now I've known what a pain it is when you forget that. Okay, so you can compare what we've read. Then we have to decide on a particular problem or need at our site. And then think about who are going to interview to get more information. Okay, so you that being the people who work there and presumably some of the tourists too. Yes, both those groups. So we are have to go to the site to do that, I suppose. But we might also do some of our interviewing away from the site. You could even contact some people here in the city, like administrators involved in overseeing tourism. Okay, so you are need to think about our interview questions and pick times and places for the meetings. It's so going to take a lot of time. And if we can, you should ask our interviewees if they can bring along. And photographs. I think we have plenty of those already, but Dr. Baker already said we have to establish with our interviewees whether we can identify them in our case study or whether they want to be anonymous. Oh, I won't have thought of that. Okay, once you've got all this information, I suppose we have to analyze it. Yes, put it all together and choose what's relevant to the problem we are focusing on and analyze that carefully to find out if we can identify any trends or regularities there. That's the main thing at this stage. Rather can concentrating on details or lots of facts. Okay, and then once we've analyzed that, the next, well, then we need to think about what you do with the data you've selected to make it as clear as possible to our readers. Things like graphs or tables or charts, right? Then the case study itself is mostly quite standard. We begin by presenting the program and giving some background, then go through the main sections. But the thing that surprised me is that in a normal report, we end with some suggestions to deal with the program or need we identified. But in a case study, we end up with a question or a series of questions to our readers and they decide what ought to be done. Oh, I hadn't realized that. So basically, the program we are addressing in our case study of the Horton Castle site is why so few tourists are visiting it, and we are finding out more from our interviews. But I did find one report on the internet that suggested that one reason might be because, as far as transport goes, access is difficult. I read that too, but that report was actually written 10 years ago when the road there was really bad, but that's been improved now. And I think there's plenty of fascinating stuff that for a really good day out. But you never realize it from the castle website. Maybe that's the problem. Yes, it's really dry and boring. I read somewhere a suggestion that what the castle needs is a visitor center. So we could have a look for some information about that on the internet. What would you need to know? Well, who'd use it for a start? It'd be good to know what categorize the visitors fell into too, like school parties or retired people. But I think we'd have to talk to staff to get that information. Okay, and as we are thinking of suggesting a visitor center, we also have to look at potential problems. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't be cheap to set up. No, but it could be a really good investment, and as is on the historical side. Right, especially as the only possible place for it would be at the entrance, and that's right in front of the castle. But it could be a good thing for the town of Horton. At present, it's a bit of a ghost town. Once they left school and got any skills or qualification, the young people will get out as fast as they can get jobs in the city, and the only people left are children and those who've retired. Right, something else we could investigate would be potential damage that tourists might cause to the castle site. I mean the environment impact. At present, the tourists can just wander around wherever they want, but if numbers increase, there might have to be some restrictions, like sticking to marked ways, and there need to be guides and wardens around to make sure these were enforced. Yes, we could look at that too. Okay, well.